A young couple have revealed Lucy Letby sent them a chilling photo of their premature son while he was still under her care. The horrified parents now fear she may have harmed their child during his stay at the Countess of Chester Hospital in Cheshire. The 33-year-old preyed on her defenceless victims between June 2015 and June 2016. The anonymous couple now suspect their son may have been targeted by Letby, who had picked him out as one of her favourites. They claim the paediatric nurse would get angry if another colleague was looking after him instead of her. Letby once sent his mum a handmade Mother's Day card with a Polaroid photograph she had taken of their baby inside the incubator. It rang alarm bells because he needed 24-hour oxygen, but in the photo their son had no mask or oxygen tubes over his face. They said Letby quickly dismissed their fears, saying, quote, "I just thought you would like a picture of him with no tubes." The boy's father said, "We had a handmade card and we assumed everyone on the ward got one, but they didn't. It was just us. Inside was a picture of my son with no breathing equipment. She said she took it out to clean or to sterilise it. Now everything's come to light, I should have questioned it more." In another instance, the baby was found to have an unusual amount of blood in his nappy when Letby was looking after him, which doctors could find no real cause. In a third instance, the infant suddenly collapsed inexplicably just as Letby was about to hand him over to night staff. Fortunately, he recovered after a senior nurse took over and the doctor came to his aid. When the boy was finally discharged from hospital, Letby asked to be friends with his mum on Facebook and commented on her posts when he ended up back in hospital. The couple claims she asked if he was needing any help with breathing. His mum added, "Now that gives me chills." 8 months ago, the couple had another premature baby boy who also needed breathing help, and they now know that Letby should never have been taking oxygen away from their first son. The boy's mum, a 32-year-old student nurse, said she had conceived twins but lost one of the babies at 8 weeks. Her surviving son was delivered by emergency C-section at the Countess of Chester Hospital in February 2016, weighing just £3 2 ounces. Letby was at his birth, and it was 9 months into her killing spree. She was on her third night shift in a run of 4, and the day before had allegedly tried to murder a baby girl by tampering with her breathing tube. The jury failed to reach a verdict in her case. Her husband immediately went to see their son, and Letby was looking after him. He said she was always on hand. He said Letby couldn't seem to do enough for us, and the child's mum said Letby had named him as her favourite. The mum added, she, Letby, was there day and night. We'd have long conversations with her, especially at night when it was quiet. She'd talk about her house, she talked about her parents a lot, she really thought the world of them. She talked about going out with other nurses socialising. I came to think of her as a friend. The couple's son was 7 days old when they were finally allowed to hold him, with Letby lifting him out of his incubator and passing him to them. The couple have a picture in their living room taken by Letby of the memorable moment. Letby can be heard cooing over their son in a video taken a few days later, but shortly afterwards she told the couple their son had been found with a large amount of blood in his nappy. Tests were unable to determine why this happened. On another occasion, a nurse told them Letby was angry she wasn't caring for him. After 5 weeks in hospital, the couple's boy was discharged, and Letby requested his mum as a friend on Facebook. The couple considered making Letby their son's godmother after he became ill and she showed concern, but in the end they asked a relative. Neither had suspected Letby of doing any wrongdoing until her face flashed up on the news at the time of her arrest in July 2018. The mum said, "It just really sickens me. She was so manipulative with us, so nice, kind and caring. I've got mixed emotions. It would be easier to really hate her if she hadn't been like that." Now, interestingly, I've also found an article released today by the Sunday Times which discusses chaos at the actual hospital itself. Take a listen to the following. Damning email told of chaos on Lucy Letby ward. Lawyers for victims' families feared a killer took advantage of overstretched baby unit. A senior doctor warned that the neonatal unit where Lucy Letby worked was chaotic, overstretched and unsafe for patients and staff 2 years before the nurse was suspended. Dr. Alison Timmins, a paediatrician, emailed Tony Chambers, the hospital's chief executive, in December 2015, reporting that staff were in tears because they were being forced to look after more babies than the unit could safely accommodate. In her note, copied in to other senior managers, she told him, quote, "Over the past few weeks I've seen several medical and nursing colleagues in tears. They get upset as they know that the care they are providing falls below their high standards." Staff at the Countess of Chester Hospital were chronically overworked, and she felt no one is listening. She said, quote, "This is not an exceptionally busy week. This is now our normal working pattern and it is not safe. Things are stretched thinner and thinner and are at breaking point. When things snap, the casualties will either be children's lives or the mental and physical health of our staff." It's quite interesting here as we continue on with this article, as this was really the defence's point of view, that this hospital was struggling. It was understaffed, the staff were overworked, and it was a hospital that was really failing, basically. But interestingly, the article then goes on to turn this around, and it states the following. Letby, 33, capitalised on the difficulties the neonatal unit faced to target her victims. Evidence seen by the Sunday Times shows she was keen to work nights and weekends and volunteered to do extra shifts to plug staffing gaps. This often left her alone with children she was not allocated to care for, and she used the opportunity to attack and kill them. Many of the incidents were clustered between midnight and 4 a.m. In other developments, ministers are expected to bow to pressure to appoint a judge to lead an inquiry, with powers to compel evidence on oath if families demand it. The Home Office has given Cheshire Police an additional £2.4 million to support its investigation into Letby. Timmins' 2-page email to Chambers, which copied in the medical director Ian Harvey and other managers, was sent after the paediatrician had worked a 21-hour shift over a Friday and Saturday. She said another colleague worked 23 hours over the same weekend. The neonatal unit was forced to close repeatedly and had 3 or 4 babies more than its maximum capacity the previous week, she said. A midwife had to come from the labour ward to help check emergency resuscitation drugs as there was not enough trained staff on the unit. At several points we ran out of vital equipment such as incubators, she wrote. At one stage she told Chambers that a baby had to be intubated, a tube inserted to help them breathe, in the middle of a room as there were no free beds. Highlighting a lack of staff, Timmins said, "We do not meet the national standards for paediatric nurses, neonatal nurses or doctors. Neonatal units should have a specific number of nurses to care for the babies on the ward, depending on how sick they are. At the time Timmins sent her email, the ward had a fifth fewer nurses than it should have done. This is common across neonatal units in England due to nurse shortages." Richard Scorer, head of abuse law and Slater and Gordon, who is representing 2 families whose babies were targeted by Letby, said, quote, "The issues raised in this email are very troubling. It suggests there were serious systematic problems in the hospital which Letby was able to take advantage of. This is all the more reason why we need a statutory inquiry which has the power to compel hospital managers to give evidence under oath and the power to compel production of documents. There is a huge amount about this case which needs to be investigated. Only an inquiry with full powers can do this." Dr. Sandy Bowen, who reviewed cases for the prosecution, described the moment she realised babies had been intentionally harmed. Bowen, who lives in Guernsey, added, quote, "I was sitting at my dining room table in the winter, and it was dark outside, and I was looking at this baby's x-ray thinking, this baby has had an air embolism. Then I thought, it can't be. I'd never seen anything like that in my career. But nothing else explained it. The x-rays were in front of me, several of them, all showing air in the baby's vessels. That's when I thought, no, it has to be deliberate." The attempted murders of baby F and baby L, 2 children poisoned with insulin, were pivotal in proving sabotage at the hospital. Blood test results showing high levels of insulin in the blood were missed by doctors. It was only when the cases were reviewed for the police years later that the abnormal test results were uncovered, buried in a stack of medical notes. Dr. Bowen said one of the baby's medical files alone contained 5,000 pages. Letby also managed to slip through the gaps in the system. Hospital managers asked the Cheshire coroner Dr. Nicholas Reinberg to investigate the 7 baby deaths in February 2017. The coroner declined, according to sources telling the trust he was not a quality assurance service for the NHS. Reinberg retired that year. Many thanks for joining me for this video. Very shortly you'll be able to see the Lucy Letby playlist, which has all of the videos concerning Lucy Letby's trial and the case against Lucy Letby all in one convenient folder. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next video. Take care. Cheers.